With people waking up all over the place through the relatively free exchange of ideas on the internet and legitimate alternative news sources making a mockery of and running circles around lamestream media outlets, it looks like the powers that be are really at a loss on how to keep scaring us into a fear-based obedience. Keep in mind, there are two things the elites truly fear: an informed, critical thinking people and alternative rivals to their fiat currency Ponzi scheme petrodollar. If you still have your wealth parked in worthless Federal Reserve notes, which loses your wealth daily through the hidden tax they like to call inflation, talk to the censorship-hating, sound money advocates at Noble Gold. Call this number or click the link, mention High Impact Flicks, and they'll take good care of you. According to the National Association for Amateur Radio, elements of the U.S. Department of Defense will simulate a communications interoperability training exercise across the United States on November 4th through 6th. The announcement released on October 24th has not been widely distributed to the media because the drill is simulating a total grid collapse and could spark public fear. This exercise will begin with a national massive coronal mass ejection event, which will impact the national power grid as well as all forms of traditional communication, including landline telephone, cell phone, satellite, and internet connectivity. In July, it was reported that the U.S. government quietly prepared for a mass coronal mass ejection with the passage of an executive order. The order was called Coordinating Efforts to Prepare the Nation for Space Weather Events. Here's a snippet of Section 1 of the executive order. Space weather events in the form of solar flares, solar energetic particles, and geomagnetic disturbances occur regularly, some with measurable effects on critical infrastructure systems and technologies, such as global positioning system satellite operations and communication, aviation, and the electrical power grid. Extreme space weather events, those that could significantly degrade critical infrastructure, could disable large portions of the electrical power grid, resulting in cascading failures that would affect key services such as water supply, healthcare, and transportation. Space weather has the potential to simultaneously affect and disrupt health and safety across entire continents. Successfully preparing for space weather events, and an all-of-nation endeavor that requires partnerships across governments, emergency managers, academia, the media, the insurance industry, nonprofits, and the private sector. Back in April of 2017, Zero Hedge had an article titled, "Yesterday's Broad Power Outage Likely Caused by Geomagnetic Storm." While everybody thought terrorism was to blame, they correctly pointed out that large power failures in major U.S. cities was due to an intense geomagnetic storm registering 8 to 10 on the K Planetary Index. EarthSky.org provides an easy understanding of what a coronal mass ejection really is. A coronal mass ejection, or CME, can launch 1 billion tons of plasma from the sun's surface into space at speeds of over 1 million miles per hour. Every so often, the sun burps. But unlike myself, when the sun burps, it does so with the power of 20 million nuclear bombs. These hiccups are known as coronal mass ejections, or CMEs. Powerful eruptions near the surface of the sun driven by kinks in the solar magnetic field. The resulting shock ripples through the solar system and can interrupt satellites and power grids on Earth. But back to the exercise on November 4th through 6th. The U.S. Department of Defense headquarters entity will work with the U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force Mars organizations and the amateur radio community to request status reports for 3,143 U.S. counties. During the exercise, communication frequencies will use HF, NVIS, VHF, UHF, and non-internet linked amateur radio repeaters. In addition, Army Mars Program Manager Paul English said, "We want to continue building on the outstanding cooperative working relationship with ARRL and the amateur radio community. We want to expand the use of the 60-meter interop channels between the military and the amateur community for emergency communications, and we hope the amateur radio community will give us some good feedback on the use of both the 5 MHz interop and the new 13 MHz broadcasting channels as a means of information dissemination during a very bad day scenario." If you want to read this full report from the National Association for Amateur Radio, I'll leave a link in the description. But the interesting part of this whole thing is, the U.S. Department of Defense training exercise will occur on the exact day that Antifa's Day of Rage commences across the United States. On refusefascism.org, a post titled, November 4th, It Begins. The Trump-Pence regime must go, which has more than 33,000 shares on Facebook. The post explains what the group's intentions are during the Day of Rage. On November 4th, 2017, we will gather in the streets and public squares of cities and towns across this country. At first, many thousands declaring that this whole regime is illegitimate and that we will not stop until our single demand is met. This nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go. Our protest must grow day after day and night after night, thousands becoming hundreds of thousands and then millions. Determined to act to put a stop to the grave danger that the Trump-Pence regime poses to the world by demanding that this whole regime be removed from power. Here's the bottom line. The United States government is quietly preparing for a major space weather event to paralyze communication systems and energy grids across the entire country. As a citizen, you're not allowed to know this knowledge, and frankly, you will not be prepared. Only the government will be prepared. The writing is on the wall of what's coming through an executive order and DoD drills. No wonder the public trust with government is at historic lows, because you're not allowed to know the truth. Simultaneously, the wealthiest families who own mega corporations in the United States are shoveling millions into their proxy armies called community organizing groups. And at the same time, Antifa is planning their Day of Rage. Let's just hope a coronal mass ejection doesn't occur when these severely misguided folks are protesting. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with others. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe and notification button and you'll be alerted when I upload new videos. Today's featured shirts are Protecting and Serving the Crap Out of You, Taxation is Legalized Theft, and Critical Thinking in Progress. Please stand by. Your $5 off promo code is in a link in the description for you for every shirt in the store. And don't forget to leave your thoughts for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below. I'll see you guys in the next video.